Hi, Raul here, and I'm back with another stock tips video. This video is for stock contributors that want to improve their sales potential. Today's tip will require some very basic Photoshop editing. We will be creating a motion blur effect using Photoshop's Radial Blur tool. The goal is to create the sense of motion or speed in the image. So why would we want to create a motion blur effect on a perfectly good stock image, you might ask? The answer is because you are creating a whole new version of the image that may appeal to different buyers. Motion blur effects can create a modern and futuristic look that's appealing to some buyers. Let's take this image for example. It's one of my top sellers in the buildings and architecture category, but I wanted to explore how I could enhance it and attract new customers. Using the Radial Blur tool, I ended up with this image. The blurred image is now selling as frequently as the original version. The original image may convey one message, and the blurred version may convey a completely different message for another buyer. So you instantly tap into a new source of buyers for your blurred images. The motion blur effect is best used for images that contain long leading lines or a vanishing point into the horizon. Here are a few examples. Images of roads and highways are excellent candidates for this enhancement strategy. I've also used this technique for downtown urban scenes with modern skyscrapers, such as my first example, particularly when you have a skyward vantage point. And I've also experimented with agricultural fields, which have led to new sales. So let's take a look at how we can transform some images in Photoshop. My first image is of a straight, long, rural highway in the Arizona desert. I love taking highway landscape shots like this one. I have just over 300 highway images in my portfolio. This shot was taken in 2016 in the Petrified National Forest. This is a great candidate for a radial blur. So we have this long two-lane highway that disappears into the horizon. First thing I'm going to do is make a duplicate layer. Should always make a duplicate. So your first step is to select the Radial Blur tool. So you go into Filter, Blur, Radial Blur. This is a really super easy tool. So you're going to want to choose Zoom as the blur method. And under Quality, you're going to choose Best. And then your last entry to select is the amount. I prefer a higher amount, like 75 or more. So I'm going to put in here 75. The higher values will generate a greater amount of blur and a greater sense of motion. Alright, so let's hit OK. Photoshop works its magic, and in a few seconds you're going to have the blurred image. It's progressing a little bit slowly this time. Alright, processor, get going. Alright, almost done. There we go. So the next step is to bring the focus back to a portion of the image. As you can tell, the image is completely out of focus, and we can't submit an image like this to the agency because it's going to get rejected. Alright, so we're going to do that by creating a layer mask and then erasing the blurred area that we want back in focus. This particular image was taken with a 21mm wide angle lens at f8, so just about the entire image was in focus. So for this image, I want the central portion of the image in focus, and in particular this leading line into the horizon. So let's create the layer mask right there. Next we need to choose the brush tool. You can hit B for the brush tool, and it's very important to choose a soft edge brush. The foreground needs to be set to black, so hit X to switch from white to black. I'm already on black, so I'm okay there. Next, you need to choose the size of the adjustment. So you just hit the left or the right bracket keys to make the selection smaller or larger. So if you hit the left bracket, you go smaller. In my case here, I want to go larger, so I hit the right bracket key. A little bit bigger, a little bit bigger, a little bit bigger, and maybe just right there. I think I like that. And there you go. So you can adjust the focus size and experiment with different looks until you like it. So here we've transformed this image in relatively no time, and you now have virtually a new image with new sales opportunity. Alright, let's take a look at another image that we can work with. My next image is a skyward view of some modern skyscrapers in downtown Chicago. Chicago is by far my favorite city to capture architecture. It was the end of the day. I was super tired after walking what I thought was a marathon and taking over 1,000 pics that day, I think. But I decided to continue searching for skyscrapers, and I ended up at this location by the Loop. I'm so glad I did. The shots I took of these buildings continue to sell after almost 10 years and over 5,000 downloads later. So for this image, I want to create the blur effect starting in this left-hand side of the image. The center should be in the convergence of these two buildings here. I want to do this so the right side of the image over here is going to be completely blurred and will provide the buyer some copy space. I'm essentially following the classic rule of thirds. So the focus area will be in this third area. Okay, let's make a duplicate. So back to filter, blur, radial blur. There we go. However, I'm now going to change the blur center by dragging the center point to match the left third area. Here I've already got it changed, but let me show you what I would do here. So it normally defaults to the center here, the blur center, and I want the blur center to be here in this area. So I'm going to drag it a little bit to the left and a little bit up, just like that. All right, that should be close enough. Hit OK. It's doing its thing, and there we go. So we now have our completely blurred image. Again, let's create a layer mask. There we go. And back to the brush tool. Let's hit B. Again, the foreground needs to be set to black, which it is. Let's make this brush bigger. I'm going to make it pretty big because I want this entire area in focus. I think that should work. Something like that. There we go. I like that. Let me do it one more time. Make it a little more in focus. Yeah, that should work. I think I like that. Okay. So if you want even more detail, just continue painting over that same area. I think that looks great. So the two converging skyscrapers are now in focus. In this particular area here, they're in focus. And we've got copy space over here on the right hand side for the buyers. So I have no doubt this image will sell. So what are your thoughts on this radial and motion blur strategy for stock photography? I challenge you to examine your stock portfolio and look for those radial blur opportunities. I guarantee you won't regret it. The worst thing that can happen is that you may earn a few extra dollars. I also have videos on sky replacements and cropping for stock photography, so check them out for more valuable tips. Thanks for viewing my video, and if you liked it, please hit that thumbs up. And please subscribe to my channel to give me the motivation to make more of these instructional videos. Catch you later.